Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to make this one-shouldered bustier pattern. It's very easy, so before we waste any time, let's get to it. So guys, for this tutorial I'm going to be using my basic pattern, and I will need the front pattern including our back pattern. We are going to need it, and it does have a zipper allowance right at the back. So I'm first going to take my front pattern, and it does have the center line, and before we do anything I am going to find the radius of our bustier. So from bust to underbust is actually 3 inches, so I'm going to create a radius of around 3 inches. Now once we are done, I am going to find the center line on the shoulder, and I'm going to mark half of my shoulder line, and I'm going to create a line there and then extend it all the way down to the bust point line. And this line is going to serve as a guideline, whereby I am going to mark down from that center line. I'm going to mark down, which is going to be almost inside the radius. Also, I'm going to mark down 1 inch, and then from one side, which is the side seam side, I'm going to mark 1 inch, and also towards the center line I'm also going to mark 1 inch, and then just connect the 2 points to form a dot. Now once we're done, we want to reshape the bust point, and I'm just going to connect it also back to the radius. Now once we are done, this is how it's going to look, and we're not going to make use of the upper line. So moving to the center line, as you notice, I'm just going to create a crease on the center, and then we are just going to connect that bust point line onto the center point, which is going to be almost like a neckline. So our neckline is going to be more like a sweetheart neckline on the center, and then on this side I'm also going to create this line or extend this line to the armhole. Now moving to the other side, is I'm on the shoulder, I'm going to go in by half of an inch, and then also and then connect the 2 points from the center neckline to the shoulder point, and then I am going to create a dot. To avoid any gaping on the chest, I'm going to create a half an inch dot, and this width of the dot is going to be half of an inch. So on the armhole, on the shoulder, I'm going to go in by half of an inch and then retrace the line back to the armhole. And I'm also going to create another dot from the bust point line. I'm just going to extend the line, and the width of my dot is going to be half of an inch. This will help our basic block not to have any gaping around the chest. Now I'm just going to cut out the shape of our pattern before we close the dots. Now before we close out the pattern, I just want to cut out the first dot and also the one on the neckline. Now on the other side, we will also want to close the top dot. So I'm just going to open the one at the bottom, so it will be easy for us to just close the top dot. And guys, our front pattern is complete. Please don't forget to add 0.5 seam allowance on the neckline, including in between the dots, so that it will be easy for us as we close. This is how it looks once we've sewn it together. So moving on to drafting the back pattern, I'm going to take the front and just join it on this side. I'm just going to make a marking on where the front pattern actually ends on the side. So the next thing is, remember that we need to create of one shoulder. So what I'm going to do is, on one side of the back pattern, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch, just like I did for the front pattern. So also on the other side, I'm also going to go in by 1/2 inch. So on that 2 point from the armhole to the shoulder line, I'm going to connect it with a curve. The next thing is to create a dot also. To avoid any gaping at the back, I am going to connect the two line and create a dot of around 1/2 inch. And then we're later going to close it when we cut out our pattern. So don't forget also, we're going to reconnect the 1/2 inch that we created on the shoulder back to the armhole. So let's go ahead and cut out this pattern. So guys, this I'm just going to open up the dart leg for the front only on one side. So I've went ahead and just extended my dart leg, and this is how it looks. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and glue this dart. Now going back to the other dart, the small dart that we've created, I'm just going to slash the bottom dart and also close, so that I'll be able to close up the side dart that we have created. And our pattern is complete, guys. So I'm just going to separate the two pattern. It does have a zipper allowance, so I'm just going to go ahead and separate the two. And please don't forget to mark your pattern, so it will be easy for you to cut on fabric. And please don't forget also to add your seam allowance even in between the dots, because my pattern, it didn't have any seam allowance. So the front and the back pattern is complete. Another tip that I really want to share, guys, before we end this tutorial is I'm going to create a little bit of contouring on the underbust. So I'm just going to create or highlight the underbust line. Okay, so my pattern did have an underbust line. So on the underbust, you want to go in by 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so let me just label this line as the underbust. So now I'm just going to create the 1/2 inch also on both sides of the dart. Then you want to connect this point to that the bottom of the waistline, and it's going to form more like a diamond shape. This is called the contouring of the underbust, and it will actually help the garment to sit so nice on your body. I really love to do this a lot on my basic patterns. So once we are done doing this, just go ahead and cut out the pieces that you're not going to use. And please don't forget to add your seam allowance, which is around 0.5 seam allowance. Not too much, doesn't need too many seam allowance, okay? So just go ahead, cut out the small pieces, and then add your seam allowance. So guys, we are done. This is how it will turn out. So I'm going to try to put it on the mannequin so that you guys can get an idea on how it should look, and I am loving the result. Hope you will enjoy making this project as much as I did. As for me, see you on the next one.